Celtics admitted the thing that we all knew. They got the exact kind of win they needed. They got the player back that they needed in Jrue Holiday, and a whole lot more right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Jrue KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining Jace, how it started, raising banners, how we finish. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I got you covered every day, Monday through Friday, even here on New Year's Day. Merry New Year to everybody who is watching, who is listening around the world. Thank you so much for making this show your first listen every day. Get onto that YouTube page. Get into the comment section, share the podcast. Do me a favor, share the podcast with your Celtics fans, friends. Tell them what they should be listening to, that they should be watching this show with me. I'm John Karalis. If you're new to the show, I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years, doing it now as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. And today it's all about the Celtics' big win over the Toronto Raptors, 125-71. That is a 54-point win over Toronto, the second biggest win in Boston Celtics history, the lowest amount of points a team has scored in the NBA this year, and just an overall win that they needed. Later on in the show, we'll talk about the upcoming road trip. We'll talk about Jordan Walsh in that fourth quarter, and we'll get into all of the little things that happen here. But they just needed this win. We said it. If you listened to yesterday's podcast, we said, come on, guys, just go out there and just beat them. Just beat the brakes off these guys so we don't have to deal with extended discussion about all of stuff that we've been talking about. Now, I said before that the Celtics admitted the thing that we knew, and that is that the defense has not been good. And here's how they did it, because it's interesting. Joe Mazzulla did not quite say it directly, but Payton Pritchard after the game basically did when he talked about how this game was won. He said, just all defense. I don't know if you could tell, but just more active, helping each other. We had more steals, more deflections. We just got to continue to be conscious of making a conscious effort on the defensive end and being active and being in help and shifting. So that is the admission. The admission is that, yeah, first of all, I don't know if you could tell was a funny line from Holiday. Joe will admit it. He'll say things, but he won't come out. He won't trash the team. He'll bend himself into a pretzel, finding ways to defend the team. Before the game, he talked about, we're top 10 and expected this and top 10 and expected that. And a lot of expected, which I totally get. You can only defend a certain amount, a certain way. And if you are giving up shots that are not expected to go in and they go in, there's a whole lot of, well, what do you expect us to do here? But that's not what exactly has been happening. And one element, as I already go off into tangents, when the Celtics are top 10, if I were to say, wow, the Locked On Celtics podcast is a top 10 NBA podcast, well, that means that it's like 10, right? Because if it was number 5, I'd say it was a top 5. And if it was number 1, I'd say it was number 1. But if I said top 10, that means it's like 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range, right? So whenever somebody's rattling off stats, they'll be like, well, we're top 10 and blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's fine. That means you're down there near 10. And with the Celtics and all of the stats that they were, top 10 in, what they used to be is top 3, right? Top 1, 2, 3 in a lot of these categories. But it sounds good when you say top 10 and you can rattle it off. We're top 10 this, top 10 that, top 10 that. It sounds good, and you say it and everybody's like, okay, yeah, you're top 10. But Joe will use these stats as deflections, as ways to like not completely criticize the team and say, yeah, the defense has not been where we wanted it to be. He'll say there are 10 to 15 possessions that we need to clear up. Okay, well, there's 100 possessions per game per team. So you're looking at 10 to 15% of their possessions that you need to clean up. And that doesn't take into account the, 10 to 15 possessions that there's nothing you could do about. There's the 10 to 15 possessions that, you make a mistake, but that's just, it happens. Like there's just like if you're a company that makes some sort of product, or you're a farmer and you're like, well, we're not going to sell 100% of our crop. 10 to 15% of the crop is just going to go bad. And we just get it. That's just part of it. 10 to 15% of your offense is going to be defense is just going to be bad in general. And you just have to write that off. Sometimes you're just going to get beat. Sometimes you just have to factor in mistakes, a miscommunication here or there. It's never going to be perfect. But Joe will throw those out there as a way to be like, no, we're pretty good. We just got a couple of little things to clean up. Well, in this game afterwards, when Pritchard said, I don't know if you could tell, like, yeah, we could all tell. This is like Always Sunny. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I think it's the gang group dates episode where Charlie's like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm having a little trouble closing the deal with the waitress. And Dennis is like, yeah, we've noticed. Yeah, we've all seen it. We've all noticed. We all could tell that the defense against the Raptors was much more active, that, yeah, they were helping each other. You had steals and deflections, and guys were actually, like I said in yesterday's podcast, bending their knees and their arms were out and they were active hands, active bodies. It's like, oh, yeah, that's how you're supposed to play all the time. And I'm okay with the occasional possession off. Like, I get it. It's not always going to be perfect. Sometimes you're going to be tired. Sometimes you're going to be distracted. Sometimes you made a mistake. It's never going to be perfect. But extended times of, that type of play, that's problematic. And that was all cleaned up for the most part in this game against Toronto. Even at the beginning, when the Celtics were down, well, geez, it was like 3-2 after 4 minutes. It was like, instead of Raptors Celtics, it was Blue Jays Red Sox, and it was 3-2 in the fifth inning. Both teams started off horribly. The Celtics couldn't hit a damn thing. Neither team could hit a damn thing. But even in that moment, the Celtics didn't come out and say, oh, God, we're still not hitting, and get frustrated and hang their heads and come back and like get distracted. In that first 6 minutes of basketball, they were active. They were still defending. I would say that the defense was pretty responsible for a lot of what Toronto couldn't do. Toronto was also pretty responsible in a lot of what they couldn't do. Let's get that out there. The Toronto Raptors are obviously shorthanded, but man, they mailed that game in. It felt like they couldn't hit a thing. They couldn't do a thing. They were horrible in this game. So if the Toronto team that we saw last month, or was it earlier in December, whatever it was, if that team showed up, the try-hard Toronto Raptors, this would have still been a 15 to 20 point game. But because the Raptors were as bad as they were, this is a 54 point game. But even at the beginning, when the Celtics weren't hitting anything, there was no frustration. There was no carryover frustration, none of that stuff. The Celtics just stuck with it. They defended well. They didn't let the Raptors move the ball with any freedom. They didn't let anybody, remember when Jakob Poeltl destroyed the Celtics in the paint? He wasn't getting any of those shots. None of that happened. So the defense was huge. And the return of Jrue Holiday, that's a big part of this. Let's talk about Jrue Holiday. Let's talk about the shots starting to fall and how all of that changed things when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by Rocket RX. If you're ready for a boost in your confidence and ready to take control in the bedroom, Rocket RX has a solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncomfortable doctor's visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in a discreet, plain package. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a real U.S. clinical team. Complete a quick 100% online consultation, and you'll get your free prescription today. Visit rocketrx.com to get started now. It only takes 2 minutes. Right now, you can get 40% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's rocketrx.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. You'll see 2 podcasts on the Locked On Celtics audio feed. One is labeled Postcast. That is Steve Lennox, who goes live on the Locked On Sports Boston YouTube page right after the game. And as soon as he's done with that podcast, that audio gets uploaded to this audio feed. So if you're listening on the audio only feed, you'll get that podcast. Then you'll get my podcast after I've talked to the players and Joe Mazzulla and gotten you a little bit more in-depth stuff. So check out the instant reaction on the postcast with Steve, and that's on the Locked On Sports Boston YouTube page, or right here in this audio. I'm here and on the Locked On Celtics YouTube page. Jrue Holiday came back and was really good. This is the Jrue Holiday the Celtics need, and it's kind of funny. So he's been out. He got hit, a few games ago. He's missed 3 games. He got hit on that right shoulder. Somebody set a screen, some sort of impingement, something there in the shoulder, and he came back in this game and played really well. He joked after the game that maybe the hit kind of set his shot straight, because he came in and shot 4 of 5 from 3 and scored 14 points, was a plus 25, 5 of 8 overall, 4 assists, 3 steals. That's huge. And his performance was very much needed. This is the Jrue Holiday, exactly the Jrue Holiday that the Celtics need. 25 minutes is perfect. He didn't play in the fourth quarter. Nobody from the starting group played in the fourth quarter. Getting him some decent looks from 3 and him knocking it down, breaking out of that slump is really good. His ball pressure, his overall defense, kind of when you have him and Derrick White paired up and playing well together defensively at the point of attack, that's hard. And when you're facing the Raptors, a bad team, that's a recipe for disaster for Toronto. You don't have your full complement of guys. That's going to lead to turnovers and empty possessions. Again, Holiday had 3 steals. Derrick White had a steal and 4 blocked shots. 4 blocked shots. So 4 steals, 4 blocks. So 8 stocks. Steals and blocks are stocks for the stock exchange, Derrick White and Jrue Holiday. One of the best nicknames for a combo in the league. I defy you to find one better. Both of those guys. In fact, let me lump in all 3 Celtics guards, Holiday, Pritchard, and Derrick White. That was a great performance from all 3 of those guys. Jayson Tatum was really good in 29 minutes. Typical kind of performance. 23 points, was a plus 38, was the team high plus 38. 23 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. He was good. Jaylen Brown was good. Only 12 points because he didn't hit a 3 and didn't go to the line. But 12 points, 9 rebounds, led the team with 9 rebounds, 3 assists. But that's a combined 35 points from Tatum and Brown. They didn't need either of those guys to go off and carry the Celtics. Derrick White, Jrue Holiday, Payton Pritchard, 16 points, 14 points, 19 points. So that's a combined 49 points from those three guys. So basically 50 points from your three guards is perfect. This is 3 of 3 for Derrick White from 3. Jrue, I told you, was 4 of 5. 5 of 8 for Payton Pritchard. So what's that? 7, 12 of 16. That's a pretty good percentage there. So the defense, I told you about Holiday and White. Pritchard pitched in 3 steals of his own. He also had 4 assists, 6 rebounds, another offensive rebound for him. When you get 3 guards like that playing that well, shooting that well, there's no chance. You don't even need Jaylen and Jayson to be, backpacking and carrying the team. The shots didn't fall early, right? The first 6 minutes of the game was garbage. In fact, if I can filter this lineup, this box score real quick. The first, let's say 6, we'll go to the 6-minute mark. Toronto was 2 of 9, 0 of 5 from 3. Boston was 2 of 12, 1 of 8 from 3. After that, the Celtics were significantly better. They were, here we go, 21 of 35 from 3 after the first 6 minutes of the first quarter. 60% of 3 after that first bunch didn't fall. Toronto overall was 25 of 77 after that. Boston was 45 of 75 after that. So not only did they take in 35 threes and shoot 60%, they took 42s and shot 60%. So the Celtics, and then they got 28 assists. One of the things that I like about the Celtics assist numbers is that no one had more than 4. Pritchard had 4, Holiday had 4, Al Horford had 4. Jaylen and Jayson had 3 apiece. Derrick had 3. And then you get 2 from Luke, 2 from Drew Peterson, 2 from Jordan Walsh. Jaden Springer has 1. Sam Hauser has 1. Spread out. That tells me ball movement. That tells me the ball was popping, moving. That also tells me that the spacing was good. When you have the assists that spread out, it wasn't like Derrick White had 12, and the Celtics had 29 assists. You said, well, Derrick White was, diamond out there. And then, a few other guys chipped in. This was a full team effort. In fact, the only guys who didn't have assists were Xavier Tillman and Neemias Queta, which, okay, that's fine. I'm not surprised that they wouldn't have an assist. Everyone else got at least 1, and a bunch of people had 2, 3, or 4. So, but Holiday's return, he looked good. Derrick White looks good. He's kind of out of that slump. And Payton Pritchard seems to be out of his slump. Al Horford. Let me just highlight Al Horford for a second before we get into the fourth quarter and the road trip coming up. Al scored 0 points, was 0 of 7, 0 of 6 from 3. I thought he played well. This is the kind of game where Al's shots, all of the shots that he took were good. In fact, I think the worst shot that he took was the spinning righty hook that he tried to take in the post that he was off balance. I know that he has a little bit of a knack for that kind of shot, but that was the shot that felt like the least comfortable to me. All of his other shots looked good, but he got in there and was rebounding. In fact, early on, in the first quarter, he was carrying the rebounding load for the Celtics and starting them out running. 4 assists for Al Horford. He impacted the game in other ways for sure. 2 steals, super important. This is exactly the kind of game you want from somebody who isn't hitting their shots. I thought Al played well. In fact, I don't know anybody here. I can't point to anybody having a bad performance across the board. This was an across the board game that I liked. I liked how they played. I liked their mental, where they were mentally. I liked where they were effort-wise. I liked everything about this game. Anything that I could say, I didn't like this, would absolutely be nitpicking. And I don't want to nitpick. Like, when the Celtics have, they have certainly issues that they need to fix. And to be fair, and I will give Joe full credit for this, the stuff that if they had lost this game, and let's just say everything went exactly the same way, except it was Toronto that hit shots and the Celtics that missed, and everything went exactly the same, except Toronto made enough shots to win and the Celtics missed enough shots to lose. We'd probably be sitting here talking about 10 to 12 possessions where you go, oh, okay, that's a problem. And I'm not talking about it now because generally speaking, everything else that they did well, like overpowers that, right? And it's not just that they missed shots. It's they didn't let those few things impact them. They moved, they played well. They didn't let their defense slip. They made a couple of mistakes. I'm okay with 10 to 12 possessions not going their way if the overall effort is good and the overall defense is good. I'm not okay with those things happening when in general you say, okay, there's a lot of lapses, a lot of errors, and they're not playing up to their capability. They're not as active as they're supposed to be. But I could go back and look at this game and probably pick out a dozen possessions where I'm like, okay, this wasn't good. That wasn't good. They need to fix that. But I would rather have them fix that while playing this level of activity, this level of defense. This is super important stuff. It's about that being in the right mental place, and that's where they were in this game. Fourth quarter was all up to the bench, and I want to shout out Jordan Walsh before I talk about the upcoming road trip. That is next. Today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. You can find those subscriptions that you forgot about or that you're paying for twice. Maybe you have something you signed up for a long time ago that you were paying, and then you signed up under a different email, or maybe you got into a relationship this year and your significant other is paying for a service and you're also paying for a service, and you're just so madly in love that you forgot to check and you're both paying for it. Don't do that. Rocket Money can help you find those all, track them all down, and you can be like a personal assistant for your finances. It's a personal finance app. It helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, even the goals you want to hit in 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So you have like subscription tracker. You can use it, will cancel services for you. Okay, that helps mentally. Never mind saving your money. Plus, the goals feature automatically sets aside money for the future. You don't have to stress about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first lesson ever. Listen, not lesson, or, maybe it is a lesson for you every day. Now go subscribe to the new Ultimate Celtics newsletter. There it is on lockedondaily.com. Go check it out. Subscribe directly to your inbox every day, Monday through Friday. Celtics coverage, league coverage, fantasy coverage, links to all the great Celtics content out there. Go check it out. Locked On Celtics newsletter at lockedondaily.com. So the fourth quarter was completely up to the bench. Jordan Walsh, I think the whole bench played pretty well. Payton Pritchard got a few minutes. Sam Hauser got a few minutes. In fact, before I get to that, let's just shout out Sam Hauser because he's needed to get back on track. 4 of 7 shooting from 3. This was a big game, a big bounce back for him. He needed this kind of game. I think it was kind of smart leaving him in for the fourth quarter for a few minutes just to get a couple more shots and hit 2 or 3 from 3 in that fourth quarter. Get him some, a few minutes of just some run as one of the primary options. But you got 12 minutes from Jordan Walsh, Drew Peterson, Neemias Queta. Queta did a good job, 8 points, 2 rebounds. Peterson, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. But Jordan Walsh is the guy that I'm really looking at. 4 of 6. He hit a 3, 1 of 2 from the line, a rebound, 2 assists, a plus 17. All those 3 of those guys were plus 17 because the Celtics won that quarter 35-18. So good performance over there. Really important for the Celtics to get Jordan Walsh these minutes. And I've said this a million times on this podcast by now over the course of the years, but I'd love it, I should say. I'd love it if starters, the regulars, thought about this when when they're preparing for a game, heading into a game. Just think of yourself, just Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derrick White. I mean, Derrick White's been in the G League. He knows. Jrue Holiday. But all of those guys, imagine walking into a game being like, I don't know if I'm going to play today. When's the last time those guys have ever had that feeling? Have they ever had that feeling? What would it be like if you walked into a game fully prepared, ready to go, studying the game plan, doing all of your preparation, your film work, your all of your lifting, your shooting, all of the same stuff that everybody else does, getting there, warming up, sitting on the bench and going, yep. Oh, did he say my name? No, he's calling Jrue Holiday. That's the Drew Peterson joke. Did he say my name? Nope. He was talking to somebody else. Nope. Is that me? No. Okay. And having the whole game go by and you're like, didn't play today. Frustrating. It's hard to stay engaged when you go the whole game and you don't get any minutes. And I bet internally, watching some of these guys, if I'm Jordan Walsh and I'm sitting on that bench and I'm like, come on, guys, you're playing like crap. Come on, step it up. I want to get into this game. I want to get a few minutes in this game. He would never say it. And it's probably not like bothersome necessarily, but I'm sure I would be sitting on the bench going like, come on, guys, let's go. Let's go. Get that. Oh, the lead's up to 12. Come on. Let's push it. Let's push it out to 20. Let's push it out to 25. I'm right there. Here we go. It's almost my time. It's an NBA game. Jordan Walsh wants to play in these NBA games. Your family wants to see you play in these NBA games. You want to be coached by the NBA coach and the NBA staff. And no disrespect to the G League staff at all, but you want to be coached by Joe Mazzulla and Sam Cassell and those guys. You want to hear it from them directly. You want to be in front of 19,000 people while they're still there before they try to beat the traffic. You want to be there on a call from Jrue and Scal. You want to have a highlight on Instagram with the Celtics logo, in the background. That's all cool stuff. You want that. And then obviously Jordan Walsh wants to take advantage of these minutes. You're going up against NBA players. It's an NBA team. I don't care if it's the Raptors. It's an NBA team. So good for him for taking advantage. I thought he did a great job taking full advantage of those minutes. I just want the Celtics to be mindful of that a little bit. The Celtics now head off on the road. This is going to be an important thing. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. But the Celtics are on a big-time road trip. They now play 10 games on the road, 5 games at home. Only one of these games in the upcoming schedule in January, one of these road games is in the Eastern time zone. Every other game is either Central or further west. Up until now, the Celtics have played just 2 games, the 2 Chicago games, in the Central time zone. Nothing else. Everything else has been East. Now they're heading out. Minnesota, Houston, OKC, Denver. Come back 2 games at home, head out to Toronto. 2 games at home after that. Then Golden State, Clippers, Lakers, Dallas. 2 games at home, New Orleans, Philly, Cleveland. This is all leading into the All-Star break. A game at home against Dallas, New York, Miami on the road. Game at home against San Antonio, and then the All-Star break. This month and a half is brutal. Toughest stretch on the schedule. getting out on this trip with this send-off, I think it's important because you want to be in a good mood heading out. You're playing tough opponents. Look at that. Minnesota, Houston, OKC, Denver. Next 4 games are brutal. Sacramento. We'll see if they're any better. I know they won their first game after firing Mike Brown stupidly. New Orleans, Toronto, but Orlando, always tough. Atlanta, Golden State, the Clippers, Lakers, Dallas, those are all going to be tough games. Houston at home. Chicago plays us tough. New Orleans, a lot of tough games in there. Not a lot of gimmies in this. Maybe this is going to be good for them. Look, the Celtics have been pretty comfortable. Think about that. And maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow in the podcast. We will do a podcast on New Year's Day. Celtics had a lot of home games. December, everything except for one game in Chicago was in the Eastern time zone. Lots of time off, lots of games at home, lots of time at home. Very easy to lose focus, very easy to get too comfortable. You need a little bit of a mix in here to get a little bit of adversity, and this is a ton of adversity here. I know it's 5-star hotels and chartered planes, but I say this every time I talk about this topic. It's still a plane. It's still a pressurized cabin. It's still an airplane seat. Even though it's a super comfortable airplane seat, you're still in an airplane seat. And it's a great hotel room, but it's still a hotel room. It's still not your bed. It's still not your pillows. It's still something different. You wake up in a place. Sometimes you wake up and you're like, where am I? What city is this? The comfort level is different. Now, I travel plenty, and I would love to trade my travel accommodations for theirs, but I still understand that there's still travel, and it's difficult. This is a tough stretch. This is really important. This could be a galvanizing type of thing where they start to put some of this stuff together. They use this game as a springboard and be like, yes, on film, all of this stuff we build on that. Use that against Minnesota, use it against Houston. So next game, Thursday night, Minnesota, Friday night against Houston. Podcast after both of those games, so make sure you're subscribed. We'll be talking about this again tomorrow, looking ahead and all of that stuff. So make sure you're subscribed, listen to the show on the audio feed, or watch it on the YouTube page. Would love to have you there on the YouTube page. Lots of great folks. Love all you folks in the comment section. You're all great. The conversations are always great. Thank you so much for hopping in there. If you haven't done it, you should too. And then I would love it if you shared the podcast and told everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Happy New Year.